Good morning. This meeting of the Louisiana Tax Commission is hereby called to order. This meeting is being held at the offices of the Louisiana Tax Commission at 1051 North Third Street, Suite 225, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The date is Wednesday, November 16th, 2022, and the time is 10 a.m. Please call the roll.
Chairman Shahardi, Commissioner Potier,
Here.
Commissioner Jeffers,
Here.
Commissioner Vercher,
Here.
Commissioner Wood,
Here.
5 present and a quorum.
There being no old business at this time, we'll move on down our agenda. I'll make a motion that we defer the approval of the minutes of the meeting of November 10th, 2022. Is there any objection to the motion? There being no objection to the motion stands adopted. We'll now consider change orders.
Chandrika Banks, on behalf of the Louisiana Tax Commission, today we have a total of 1,308 change orders. Staff has reviewed those change orders and requests to approve 1,215. We'll place 22 in pending status and defer 71. Reason for deferral: 71 in Orleans Parish represent a supplemental role. We would like to defer all change orders requests from Orleans, which reference a supplemental role. Staff requests approval of these change orders.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead.
I would move that we accept the staff recommendation and approve 1,215 change orders, place 22 in pending status, and defer 71 for the reason given.
Now we have a motion. Is there any objection to the motion? There being no objection to the motion stands adopted. We'll now consider prior pending change orders.
Chandrika Banks, on behalf of the Louisiana Tax Commission, today we have a total of 70 prior pending change orders. Staff has reviewed those change orders and requests to approve 7 and keep 63 remaining in pending status. Staff requests approval of the prior pending change orders.
We have a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we accept staff recommendation, approve 7 of the 70 prior pending change orders, place 63 back in pending status.
We have a motion. Any objection to the motion? There being no objection to the motion stands adopted. We'll now consider the 2022 tax roll for Sabine Parish.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tanisha Malvo on behalf of the Louisiana Tax Commission. We have received the tax roll for Sabine Parish. We have their electronic roll, which has balanced in our system. We also have received their affidavit, the quietus, the approval letter from the Legislative Auditor's Office. We've also balanced their TC 33, millage report, and public service report with their electronic roll. Staff requests approval of Sabine Parish 2022 tax roll.
Thank you. Do we have a motion? Yes. We have a motion for the approval of the Sabine 2022 tax roll. Is there any objection to the motion? There being no objection to the motion stands adopted. We'll now move on to the appeal portion of our docket. I'm going to ask anybody who's planning on testifying today to please stand up at your chair to be sworn in as a witness. Thank you. It is the Tax Commission's policy to accept all documents into the record that were timely pre-filed in accordance with the Commission's rules and regulations. This will be done at the conclusion of all hearings on today's docket. Accordingly, there is no need to formally offer or introduce the exhibits into the record during your appeal hearing. However, if you intend to object to the submission of any of the opposing parties' exhibits, you must notify the Commission at the start of your appeal hearing. As a reminder, this is an administrative hearing, and as such, the rules of evidence are relaxed. The Commission is inclined to review and consider all evidence submitted and to accept such evidence into the record. We'll now take up the appeal of Comstock Oil and Gas of Louisiana Incorporated versus Assessor Bobby Edmiston and the Bossier Parish Board of Review. Docket number 21-22015-008. All right, this is a taxpayer appeal, so we'll ask the taxpayer to please state your name for the record, talk into the microphone as close as you can, so that we make sure we pick up everything you say. Go ahead.
Colton is saying,
Pull the microphone a little closer.
cool. Colton is saying, with the Katie Andrews representing Comstock.
All right, go ahead. And talk into the microphone.
So we're requesting the value for serial number 251073 be adjusted from $2,296,753 to $129,667, sorry. We're requesting that this be changed based on the assessment date of, on the assessment date of January 1st, 2021, the well was not producing. It had a casing collapse. And in our Lat 12 that we submitted to Bossier Parish, it included in March, had the last production, and then in April, it dies off. We let them know that on August 27th in an email to Ms. Garland. And she responded to that by saying that the status is determined based on the average of 2020, which is a useful way to get a value, an assessed value, but it's not the only way. And in situations like this, it's not an accurate depiction of what the well actually is. Per the revised statute 47/1952, that is Exhibit 4 in our submitted exhibits, it states assessment shall be made on the basis of condition of things existing on the first day of January each year. On the first day of January of 2021, like I said, the well was producing 0 MCF per day. And right now it's being assessed as if it were a fully flowing well. 0 obsolescence on the assessment right now.
Let me ask you this, based on your interpretation of that statute, if someone were to come in on December 30th, turn the well off. January 3rd, they turn the well back on again. It's not producing on January 1st. Therefore, it's worth 0?
On that basis, the way that I would see that is that that well was capable of producing. This well, the casing had collapsed. It was unrepairable. That is direct words from Dan Harrison and Dan Presley. They are VP of Accounting, Controller, and Treasurer at Comstock. They claimed it was unrepairable. And so, yeah, I would say the difference is that a well that could come back, we can see where the value would be in that.
Are they here?
It would be uneconomic. No, it's not. Since this appeal has happened, it has been changed, and it was shut-in well status for 2022, I believe. I don't have an exact date on that. I believe that it was late just because this was all happening during COVID, regulatory offices, and then just some reporting delays from Comstock getting it to.
Who made the determination that the well was inoperable?
was inoperable.
You said the well was not inoperable on January 1st.
Yes.
Who makes that determination?
As far as Comstock making, that was Mr. Presley.
All right, is he here to testify today?
No, sir, he is not.
Okay, do we have a report from him?
I have an email, but we received it after the exhibits had
Okay.
been submitted. I have copies for you if
Uh,
we can do
I
that.
don't, yeah, if it's after the date, I don't know that we can accept
Yeah.
it.
We did let Ms. Garland know on the 27th. We didn't know exactly what was wrong, so we knew it was a mechanical failure. So we did let her know that, and we did not request a shut-in status just because we were not sure that it was going to be completely shut in. We didn't have all that information. So we requested MCF less than 2, which gives that room. We knew that it was producing 0. The data shows that it was producing 0, but we didn't know, kind of like in the situation you had presented, we weren't sure if it was going to come back. So we didn't want to come out and just tell y'all this well is not coming back if we didn't know that for sure.
Can you explain this attachment A, this LAC 12 attachment A for me?
Right. Their exhibit A, it's the same as our exhibit 3, I believe. But it's basically reporting what we rendered the value as for that property. And you can see we have that as, incapable less than 2. Sorry, I misspoke earlier. And then on the production, you'll see that past April or past March, it's just zeros. You'll see the 95 and the 52. We're attributing that to just reporting error, reporting delays. There are 3 other wells on the LUW code. So it is possible that with all the mixing and
All right, well, let me ask you, it says year and month. It says 2018, 402,997. What is that number? Is that a report for 2018?
yes, that was the total production for 2018.
Okay, and then 2019, I'm sorry, that was 2019, I apologize. 2018, you have 0. 2020/01, oh, that's January, is that January? Is that what that 01
Yes.
means?
Yes.
Okay, so 2020, 149,918. It's gonna be February's 137,459, and then it tapered off all the way to the end of the year, which then gets us to January 1st, 2021.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So how was the calculation made to come up with $129,667? As you come up with, you're requesting an assessed value of, excuse me, you're requesting a value of $129,667.
So
How do we get there?
that value comes from applying the obsolescence of a well that is incapable less than 2. So we took the last 7 months and saw that that was 0 value. And yes, there is that 95 and that 52, but since we know that the casing had collapsed, that has to be a reporting issue because the well could not produce. And so based on that, we know that that well is not shut in, but basically as close as it could be. And that incapable less than 2 is that next step up.
You
And-
said that you took from April to the end of the year?
Just kind of briefly looking at it, I didn't take any average or anything. I was just trying to find what the best representation of the condition on that January 1 date was. And at that time, it's non-producing.
Well, the best way to to determine. I mean, when you talk about the January 1st date, we're talking more in terms of where was the property located? You know, what physical condition was it in? When we're looking at inventories, for example, we take an average of the previous year to determine the inventory. So at a minimum, you know, you really need to be looking at the average for the previous year. But I'm still having trouble. Where do you get the numbers from? There's a lot of missing holes here, a lot of holes here where we have numbers. Well, we have a number here and a number there, but we don't have the train that goes between the 2 points. And we don't have any evidence that I know of submitted that shows that.
Yes, sir. So the lot form that we submitted, we did take the tax manual. We apply, the cost per foot for the depth for, the associated parish or region that it's located in. We apply the appropriate percent good. We do all of those steps the same as what's prescribed in the rules and regulations, chapter 9. And then we did the only thing that we're doing different than the assessor's office is applying the obsolescence. So we, allowed for the first step, the 40% reduction, and then the additional reduction down to the incapable less than 2 reduction that is allowed per the page 6 of the chapter 9 rules and regulations. And so our lat form, we don't show, the hand math calculations on our lat forms. Our system does do all that. We've plugged in the age of the well. Our system recognizes the serial number and where that falls on the percent good and the year. So that's kind of what happened behind the scenes to the number that is printed on the lat form. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And the reason why there was a casing failure is they were drilling a new well located nearby, and there was a frac hit, which, affected the existing well. And so at this point, it's uneconomic for them to repair the well. It will not be. And eventually, I mean, it's shut in now per Sunrise, and it will have to be plugged and abandoned in the future. Yeah, they didn't specify, but I believe so.
Once again, and maybe I'm just not too bright. You kind of looked at April through the end of the year. And you determined there was a certain amount of gas that was a fair number to use to report on. And then you came up with a value of $129,000. How did you get to the $129,000?
So we have the charts that you'll see, I believe, has provided the chapter. The tables we followed by depth, followed percent good, came up with a total value. And then when we applied that obsolescence, that's how we got from their number to ours.
And what kind of obsolescence factor did you use?
So the total obsolescence after the multiple tiers were allowed for the incapable status, less than 5, so forth, is printed on the lat, and that will be the 89.6%. So it is just a smidge less than the 90% obsolescence that were granted for a shut-in well. So we didn't ask for the shut-in status because Sunrise was not reflecting that at the time. And, at the time when we were rendering this in early, February, March of 2021, this is the information we had. And then we reached out to the client and learned that it was a mechanical failure. And that's what we relayed to Ms. Garland at the time.
Is there any plans to plug and abandon?
based on last. Based on the last time we talked, but I believe we talked then, they were planning.
And when was it actually given shut-in status? Because, in the rules that you're citing, really, that's very important to receive the full form of obsolescence to be looked at as a shut-in. So,
Which, yes, sir, and that's why we did not request the full shut-in status, because the Sonras did not reflect the status 33 code at the time of rendering as of 1/1/2021. It still had a status code of 10, so that's why we're only applying obsolescence here.
and in your conversation with the assessor's office, you said that, and I didn't catch exactly, what you mentioned. What was the reason for denying your approach on the obsolescence?
It was that they were going to take the average of 2020, and because of those high producing months of January, February, that threw off the whole average, and it made the well flowing. So
And so the way that we're looking at it here is an extraordinary event happened, something happened to this property, and we're requesting obsolescence because regardless of what happened in January and February of 2020, that's not an accurate prediction, assumption or view of the property of fair market value of 1/1/21. That early production was in early 2020. Something extraordinary happened here, an extraordinary event. The well cannot be recovered. It will not produce again. So that is why we did ask for that obsolescence. And we did ask, when Ms. Garland was unreceptive to our less than 2 obsolescence, we did ask, well, can we use a 40% reduction instead for the incapable status? So we were trying to find some common ground here of what they thought would be fair. Obviously, the well is experiencing, something at this point on 1/1/21, and it just seemed like they were unwilling to recognize, the information that we have provided regarding what was happening with the well.
we were told that the well would need to be exact words are, it would need to be significantly closer to 100 MCF per day for the status to drop down any. And we know that it was producing 0 MCF per day. So it just didn't seem right that they could say that and not apply any obsolescence.
Did you submit anything to show well depth or anything like that?
I believe that's on the last well, right?
Yes, sir, that is included on the lap form. We have exhibit 3 of our exhibits, and that is the active lower perf, which is 11,727 feet.
I'm looking at the lat 12. It's, let's see, one page with the exhibits, the exhibit on production. I don't see anything. Let me see.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the number I'm looking for. Thank you. All right, are there any other questions? All right, well, let's hear from the assessor's office.
Just a couple of questions, and I'm going to kind
And
of,
pull the mic close to you, Mr. Eddington.
yeah, pose this jointly, just I want to make sure I understand. The rendition, it's a two-page document. What we'll do is Assessor Exhibit 1. This is in fact the rendition that was submitted to the assessor's office, correct? You'll need to verbally answer.
Yes, sir, that is the rendition
And
that was
was
submitted.
any other information provided to the assessor's office?
The attachment, the Lat A attachment for the production that's
Okay,
required.
and that was it? Okay. I want to make sure I understand exactly the point of the complaint. Let's set aside obsolescence for just a moment. Or is there any contention that the assessor failed to properly apply the tables in determining the fair market value of this property? Again, excluding obsolescence.
The obsolescence, not the tables, not as far as the depth and the year
So
and
it's,
percent good.
going to be clear. So it's purely, this appeal is purely based on the fact that the assessor did not grant an obsolescence reduction.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Thank you. No further questions.
And the testimony was the assessor did not apply any obsolescence. Is that correct? Is that what you asked? Okay, any questions? All right, you
Mr.
ready to?
Chairman, we'd like to call Ms. Christina Garland, who's already sitting beside me. Ms. Garland, could you please identify yourself and state your position for the record?
Christina Garland, Controller and Personal Property Supervisor for the Bossier Assessor's Office.
And as the personal property supervisor, were you the person responsible for reviewing the submission submitted by Comstock and working up the ultimate assessed valuation on this property?
Yes. Yes.
And can you tell us in your own words how you went about determining the value of this property? Let's start with the actual value you came up with, and we'll get to obsolescence in a second.
Yes, I went to the attachment, the 12A, and took an average of the MCF for the year and averaged it. It's well above, a capable well. And so I put it as a capable well, and we put the equipment on and roll forward.
But the actual valuation you came up with, that was what was reported in the LAT 12, correct?
Yes.
And can you tell me why you did a 12-month average on this property?
The 12A lists everything on a 12-month basis, and there were numbers provided for each month, so I entered them and calculated, and that came to my value.
And do you do this for all oil and gas properties in Bossier Parish?
Yes.
And I noticed, for instance, there was 2019 production. Had you used that same methodology for the prior year with Comstock?
Yes.
And again, just a moment ago, that the chairman brought up an issue I was going to bring up. Are there any other property classes, such as inventory, that you look at the average of the preceding 12 months in working up a value in personal property?
What do you mean? I'm sorry.
So when you value your inventory, do you look purely at the January 1 number, or do you take the yearly average?
We take an average for the year.
And so this is not even unique to this class of property, correct? Again, I know I asked this question of Comstock representatives, but the LAT form was only information you actually received from them in support of their request for obsolescence, correct?
Yes.
And again, you are the actual person as a personal property director that made this assessment, correct?
Yes.
In your opinion, did the taxpayer provide the assessor with proper documentation to claim this reduction?
No.
Thank you. No further questions. All right, so let me understand, the value that you have, 1,296,753 was determined by taking the average of January 2020 through December of 2020, the production and average, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay, and the months that are listed as zero, is that included in the average as well? So basically you divided by 12 is what I'm asking.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, so whatever that adds up to, divide by 12, that's the number you used. And then you
Yes.
use that number against the tables.
Yes.
Okay, and that's where you came up with 1.3 million,
Yes.
1,296. Okay. Did it not cause you any concern or questions to ask when you saw so many months at zero? Did that not indicate something's going seriously wrong here?
Not necessarily. I mean, oil and
So you
gas
think
is
they just
very
shut
up
it
and
down for
down.
that month and just didn't produce that month?
It could be. It was not reported as shut in. So, I mean, numbers could just be down. We don't particularly know what's going on specifically.
Did you
with each
have any
one.
meetings with the taxpayer
No.
on the value? Were there any meetings or conversation?
We had some email correspondence.
I'm sorry.
We had email correspondence, but that's it.
Okay, did they raise the issue of obsolescence in those emails?
Yes.
But you did not believe them or?
No, based on my calculations, no,
Hmm.
I did not believe it needed any obsolescence for,
Even though they got zero production for at least a half a year, if not longer.
yes, sir.
It's kind of hard to believe that there's not something going on. Either they just decide they don't want to produce those months, doesn't make a lot of sense, or there's a problem, which makes more sense. It just seems to me that you'd want to ask the question of, hey, something doesn't look right. Can you tell me why there's zero production in these months?
I mean, the production was so high in earlier months. I mean, we take an average based on what's submitted and
Well, appraisals are not arithmetic. They're a little more involved than that. But, okay, thank you.
I just want to make sure that I'm clear. In 2019, there was 149,918 MCF gas produced by this well.
No, sir. In 2019, there was 402,997 MCF.
I'm sorry. Okay, I was just looking at the wrong. In 2020, it was 100.
Yes, sir.
That was
except
actually
for
January,
just
just
January.
January of 2020.
So it was roughly math here. It was close to 300,000 MCF of gas in 2020.
Yes, sir.
And then it was shut in, or, I mean, it has been given shut-in status
Yes.
in 2021,
Yes, sir. 2022. 22, sorry.
2022. I do think based on our rules that's important. Number one, that it did not have shut-in status. Number two, that it produced 75% of the same MCF of gas from the prior year. So I do think that there's a valid argument to be made by the assessor that the value should be pretty close to the same.
Yes, sir. And I understand your perspective here. And our perspective is, we have neighboring wells in this parish with this operator and other clients that we represent. How would it be fair that this well would be assessed at the same basis of those wells that produced over 100 MCF every single month of 2020? How is this well assessed at the same valuation, or not exact number valuation, but in the same manner, when obviously we can see something did happen? And that is why we proactively, reached out to the client to provide that information to Ms. Garland.
And, without getting into a long argument or discussion about it, one of the things, of course, that affects value more than anything is the price that you're selling your commodity. In 2020, the price was low. Right now, or maybe the 2020 was going up. Right now, it's really high. So the best approach may be the income approach. And I think now we have some basis for that moving forward. So with, it may become a little easier to have this discussion in the future.
I think that's a good point. It's, we went to the rules and regs this year. We saw all the changes that are being made, and that's because a uniform way to assess each well, it can help, but you need a little bit of individuality for each well, because each well is different. And taking that average of the 12 months doesn't appropriately describe each well that it.
All right, do you have any other questions? All right, Mr. Addington, you have another witness?
No further witnesses, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody have anything they want to say in closing, or? You don't have to, and just asking the question. All right, any other questions from the commission itself?
Mr. Chairman, if I'm in line, I'd like to do a little more research on this, if possibly. We could
Yeah,
take it under advisement.
Yeah, we definitely want to take this under advisement.
All right.
You want to make the motion to take it
Yeah,
under advisement?
If I'm in order, I would move on docket 21-22015-008, that this matter be taken under advisement.
All right, we have a motion to take this appeal hearing under advisement. Docket number 21-22015-008. Is there any objection to the motion taking it under advisement? There being no objection, the motion passes. All right, well, thank you all very much.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank
and
you.
We did it.
Thank you.
We're out by 3.
Wish we could do other ones like this. What do we do now between now and 3 o'clock? You don't know, you guys don't know this, but we've had hearings that have gone to 3 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah,
Not
that's exactly my reaction. Like
Thank you,
going to
Commissioner.
church on Sunday and the priest gets up there and talks and he keeps beating that dead horse. You got the message 20 minutes ago, but he keeps doing it over and over.
That's when the
and
deacon cuts off the.
over.
Thank you very much, Commissioners.
Thank you all very much. All right, I believe that concludes our docket for today. Am I correct? Okay, that being said, we have a motion. Yes, go ahead. All right, Tax Commission hereby accepts all pre-filed documents and oral testimony into the record as Taxpayer Exhibit 1 in Globo, Assessor Exhibit 1 in Globo, and Louisiana Tax Commission staff, well, that's not that relevant here, for each appeal hearing conducted today respectfully. Now, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chairman, I move
Yes.
adjournment.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn. Is there any objection to the motion? There being no objection to the motion stands adopted. We are adjourned at 10:39 a.m.